Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
Hear you perfectly. Perfectly, perfectly. Helen, how are you
Good.
today?
I'm good, especially after that Qigong session.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for
It's a
joining
pleasure.
us. And I just want to make sure I am pronouncing your name correctly.
Helen, yeah.
Okay, and it's Helen Mueller?
Müller.
Mueller,
Yeah.
Mueller. So where's the Mueller from? Where is that from?
It's German.
It's
Yeah.
German.
Yeah. Because it's
Awesome.
got the two. So people always think it's Mueller. And actually on my passport, it's spelled Mueller because they can't put the two dots. But if you pronounce it, it's Müller.
Mueller,
Mm.
Mueller.
Yeah.
Okay. Blessings. I was born in Germany. Yeah,
Really? Oh,
Stuttgart.
oh my goodness. I just had friends that were there for Christmas in Stuttgart. Yeah.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
I was
Yeah,
there
what
for Christmas in Germany as well.
say again? Christmas?
Yes, I was in Berlin for Christmas.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy time with family?
Yes, it was lovely with family, but I felt the energy was quite, I don't know, like I think I'm very sensitive. It was my first time actually in Germany. I wasn't born there or anything.
Okay.
And I felt the energy was quite like intense. And I think it's like, with the wars and everything, I pick that stuff up. Like I was staying close to the wall of Berlin, and and it's got like this whole display. It says like the wall of terror. And I was like, why would anyone want to go there? To the wall of terror.
Wall of Terror.
Yeah.
Whoa. Whoa. So then if not Germany, then where are you from originally? Where were you born and raised?
I was born in South Africa, close to Cape Town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's where you came up for most of your life?
Until I was 18. When I was 18, I started traveling.
Okay.
I went to the United States for 1 year
Mhm.
and then went back to South Africa to study. So I was again there for like 4 years to get my degree
Mhm.
and public relations management. And then I started traveling again, and I've always been traveling since then. And now I'm living in Portugal part of the time.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Mhm.
What would you say, because you said you've been to the US, you've been to America.
Yes, couple of
So what would you say are the biggest differences between America and South Africa?
times. Um, I think South Africans have that kind of, I wouldn't say survival thing about us, or that kind of being very solution oriented, where I felt, say, in America, everything's very easy. The
Mm.
people kind of are more supported, where in South Africa, it's more like a driven culture, like more, um, yeah, it's more like a driven culture. And
Driven.
I feel it's more connected there as well. It depends on where you are in the United States, but in some places I felt not as connected. Like I lived in the Northwest,
Mhm.
in Seattle and Bainbridge Island, and then also in Florida for a little while.
Mhm.
And that was for me like a massive contrast between those two areas of
Right.
America. Yeah.
Because when you say, Helen, when you're talking about driven, like what was really driven about, living in South Africa that you can recall that you really just felt that driving force that people had versus, in contrast here in the States here.
Like we have a saying in my first language is Afrikaans, and we have this saying, "'n boer maak 'n plan." And if you translate it directly, it means a farmer makes a plan. And it's kind of like the attitude of the South Africans is it doesn't matter, what problem we have. Like there's always a solution. Like we can
Mhm.
always, like even me, like if something breaks, I can fix it. I don't have to call like yes, sometimes you need to get help, but we have that mentality of we'll make like a MacGyver thing,
Mhm.
like, we'll fix it in some way. We'll find a
Yeah.
solution. So I think like that's what I mean about driven. And I think because of just it's a like a third world country, so we had to make it ourselves. Like it was a lot. There's a lot of challenges, and economically, and even now, it's probably the reason why I left as well, is it becoming more difficult there
Okay.
to live. But it's a good quality of life, you know, compared to Europe. It's not as safe, but the quality of life of South Africans are really good.
Okay, the quality,
Yeah.
the quality.
Mm.
Interesting. You know, so it sounds like you're saying that phrase. It was like where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah,
Like you'll make it happen. You'll come up with a solution. If there's a problem, no worries. Like you'll figure it out.
you'll figure it out. Like I have this motto even in my mind. I say to myself, there's no problem I can't solve. There's no solution I can't find.
Mm,
Like I sometimes like have it like in my mind.
yeah. What a mantra, you know, what an affirmation, just to feel the vibration of, you know, resilience, your own brilliance, your own determination, and just, you know, just to have that attitude and to know that you're resourceful, you know, that
Yeah,
resourcefulness within you. A farmer makes a plan. You're like,
yeah,
okay, I got it, you
I
know.
got it.
It doesn't matter what happens, what come what may,
Exactly.
you know. I have all that I need. That's awesome. You know, to tell
Yeah,
yourself that is awesome. And you know, just to be able to like have that in it, to see it immersed in the culture and to see it immersed in so many people where there's not an over reliance on so many things on the external when you have the confidence and the faith and the trust on the internal.
yeah,
So it reminds me, Helen, you know, you put up something about, you know, over reliance on AI or over reliance on technology or over reliance on, you know, outside sources. Does that kind of go hand in hand with what you're mentioning?
yeah. You know, touching on that, I wrote a little poem for you, which I want to read after this question
Oh,
because
okay.
I just wrote it like before.
Okay.
This is something funny because you always like to rhyme, right? Anyway, but yeah, to answer you on that, yes, I think what I have found is I always try to come back, you know, like stop through, you know, through life is to stop and say, okay, fine, because there's so much information on the outside, right? And so many things, when you say about this over reliance on AI, now it's just a new thing, but like I feel you need to just just stop every now and again and like check in with yourself and say, okay, well, I've got all this stuff already inside me. I'm not using it. You know, like what is there more to discover? And that's what I like about the Pranic bath, because that is almost like that reset button for us. I mean, unless you like Elitom. But I mean, if you do like the fasting, it's like a reset to say, okay, wow, I didn't even see what was going on inside me anymore. I didn't like, you know, I wasn't connecting with all of this information. Exactly, all of the information we have inside ourselves,
Mhm.
right? So I think it's like that where if you, I think if you slow down a bit and you just take a deep breath, you know, it's there. Everything is there.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's all there. I love
Mm.
that. Slowing down to the speed of wisdom, you know,
Yeah.
just slowing down and just realizing what's already within you as you continue, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, read the
Yes.
poem. I'd love to hear
Yes.
the poem that you have
I
for us.
just improvise. It's short. Okay. Jerome, I wrote you a poem. Your qigong is the bomb. When we get in the flow, I know that we grow together with tiger claws and monkey paws. So let's get talking so that we can keep walking the pranic path, realizing the Maya is one big laugh.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Amazing, amazing. You must have just written that yesterday.
No, I wrote it just now before.
Oh,
I was like rushing for
so because
it.
yesterday we did the monkey's
I
paw
know.
and the dragon's claw,
I
but you
love
say
it.
you just wrote that today?
Yeah, I just wrote it now before the
You're
live.
amazing. You're amazing. You're amazing, Helen. That was awesome. Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
When did you learn that? When did you get into poetry? When was that like a big passion for you?
Gosh, when I was in high
Hmm.
school, I was kind of like, had to get all the stuff from the inside out on paper. So yes, when I was in high school, I started writing poetry. And funny, when I went that year to the States, I was living on Bainbridge Island, and I was an au pair, nanny, au pair.
Okay.
And part of the program is we got money, and I thought it was a lot of money for classes that we could do, So I did all kinds of crazy things like fly fishing. Okay, pottery was amazing. And then there was a poetry course, and it was so good, but I thought it was for beginners like me. I mean, like novices like me. So I signed up for this course, and all these like great poets from Seattle was coming, like all these like poets, and we would go into this wooden cabin in the woods and make peppermint tea, and everybody would bring a biscuit or something, and then you had to write a poem, and then obviously everybody discusses the poems, but that was interesting. So I just kept writing, and now I write on Medium some poetry. I go through stages but it comes natural to me, like natural. It's fun for me, like same for you. It just comes, right?
It's fun.
It's good.
It is fun. You're just tapping into your inner child, that childlike wonder of just the magic of creativity and curiosity and just playing with language. You're a distinguished linguist. You have that spectacular vernacular that you can just play and just bring more life into your day. And I really relate to you, Helen, because I resonate on that level of it was early in school that I started poetry as well. In a reading class, there was a teacher that she brought us outside, just the same way we went into the courtyard of the school, and we were out in the open, fresh air, and we were just in nature. We got to look at the grass, we got to, feel the sun on our face, we got to hear the birds and see the bees and, in the leaves of the trees and everything, right? And so she just had us write in our notebooks, and I remember writing something, and I brought it back to class thinking nothing of it, just thinking nothing of this stream of consciousness that I don't even know where I channeled it from. I don't even remember what I wrote, but I brought it back to my teacher, and I always remember, Helen, the way that she reacted. She was like, Jerome, like you wrote this? I was like, yeah. She was like, she looked at me, and then she looked at the poem, and then she looked at me, and she looked at the poem, and she was like, you wrote this? And so that was the beginning. And she was one of the only ones that really encouraged me and just rooted for me and championed me to keep going. It wasn't even something that I thought about growing or the energy that I knew that was flowing, but she was the one that told me keep going.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's precious, isn't it?
So you had somebody like that as well, Helen, when it came to that?
Well, no, not really. I mean, the people around the table, because they told me write something in Afrikaans, and I was thinking, listen, I can write anything. These people wouldn't have a clue what I'm talking about, right? But anyway, I wrote the poems, and they would listen so intensely.
Right.
And then afterwards, it would be like, oh my God, that was so beautiful. And then sometimes I wrote poems, like a poem in both, like English, like alternating the English and Afrikaans. That was pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, not anybody specific, but that was it was a good experience, because I felt I didn't feel like like they were better than me or anything like that. They didn't make me feel like that. It was just the equal sharing.
Yeah.
And I've always loved writing. I really have. Yeah.
That's what it's all about, the sharing. Like sharing is caring, being able to express the way you know best, So I'd love this to learn from you, Helen, when it comes to what it did for you, that creative process that you adopted, and just channeling that energy to let it flow through you. Because when I started writing, I was in very depressive periods. I was heavily medicated. this was before I was meditated, before I had the meditation, I had years of medication,
What
before
did
I
you
even
have?
knew. Yeah. What'd you say?
What did you what medication? If I may ask, yeah, what
Yeah.
was your?
So there was Adderall, Ritalin, Strattera, Concerta. So a few of those were for, prescribed for ADHD. They said I had attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And then the other ones were for depression. They prescribed me ones for too much energy and lack of focus, and then the other ones they prescribed for being depressed. And so poetry was like a godsend. Books were a godsend. Just reading and writing was a godsend. It definitely was in my time of need for sure. So in terms of, your emotions, your joy, your happiness, your bliss, your peace, what did poetry do for your perception?
I think I probably took the same path as you, that I was more expressing my, you know, things that I couldn't express outwardly to family.
Mm.
So I was also using the poetry and that creativity in that way, and also spending a lot of time outside. And I would say probably from the time when I started writing and reading
Hmm.
my first book, M. Scott Peck, The Road Less Travel, I would say my first spiritual book. That's kind of where the happiness thing started for me, because I asked myself, that was when I was 16. I had an out of body experience, and then I kind of looked down on earth, and I saw everything, like, but in like a larger sense. Like I saw people doing things and life as it is on earth, and I thought to myself, this doesn't make sense to me. Like in my mind that time, it's like, this doesn't make sense. Like, why would I want to do this thing, this small picture I was seeing? And that's when I thought, okay, what do I want? And I said to myself, I just want to be happy. That's where it started. I was 16, and I asked myself, Helen, you can have anything. I knew I could have anything. I knew I could do anything. But I had that honest conversation with myself, and I said, okay, I just want to be happy. That's it. But then I thought, okay, now I gotta find this answer of how to be happy, because I saw, I observed my family, like my life. I lived on a farm, and I thought to myself, these people don't particularly look happy. This situation doesn't, whatever it is, success or a family or what, I could see this is not the answer.
Right.
So I set out and I thought, okay, this is the only thing that I'm going to do for my life. I'm just going to find this answer. If it takes me my whole life, then it takes me my whole life. But this was my one goal, my main thing. It's all I wanted to know. I just wanted to be happy. So now I need to know how to do it. And every decision I made had that kind of, that goal in mind. So yeah. So that's kind of, so when if you talk about the writing and everything, I think I used that more to let this stuff out, to make space for that journey that I was on. Because I had a lot of, I still we all still, it's like like there's always things to deal with.
Always.
And yes, like writing poetry is a beautiful way of letting some of that stuff flow out, or even fasting. It's again letting some of that stuff out.
Absolutely. In so
Path
many
is more
ways.
clear.
Yes. So many ways, just not even just physically, but emotionally, mentally, just, releasing the things to be more at ease, to be more at peace, within, on the internal, to feel the eternal on the internal is definitely, we can release so much through writing, and yeah, the things that we've been inviting. Yeah, but it's igniting, it gets exciting, when you can let these things go. You don't have to hold on to them anymore. They don't have to burden you down.
Yeah.
and be the baggage on your back,
Mm.
that you're carrying wherever you go. So thank you for that testimony. You said you went out of your body. First of all, you're 16 and you said you had an out of body experience. Now, was this like an induced astral projection, or was this just like, spontaneous? Like, how did you said you were above looking down? How did that
Yeah.
happen?
No, okay, I don't actually believe that you're out of your body, because you can't really be out of your body because you're not even in your body, But I mean, for like, I think everybody can kind of understand what that means. I had a lot of extrasensory experiences as a child. I would talk to consciousness. I spent a lot of time in nature, just having these conversations with consciousness, not like an imaginary friend, like an actual, like I was actually like talking to consciousness. And then I had loads of interesting experiences. Like, some was a bit scary stuff, and I mean, all kinds of things happening. But yes, this was just I was in high school, I was in boarding school, and I think it was happening before, like one night before I went to sleep. And it just, I've had a couple of times of that. When I listen to binaural beats, I can do it as well. It's just kind of going to a different dimension. It's you just experiencing something different. But yeah, it just felt like I was not in my body. Yeah, like I was above my body, and I was in that moment not seeing my body, but I was more. It was very like high, like I could see all of the world, but
And you,
in a flash, like I can explain it, like in a snapshot. So I was seeing different things, I was seeing people, I was seeing the cars, I was seeing people going to work, I was seeing a family, I was seeing like all kinds of like snapshots of life on Earth.
and it wasn't strange to you at any moment, like you were fully prepared to see what you saw, like you didn't freak out, you didn't,
No.
panic, there was no panic.
No, I only freaked out when the aliens wanted to take me to the ship. But no, I don't freak. I know, I find it quite exciting experiences like that. I'm very open, I'm very receptive to experiences. I always want to go further into it, because of my excitement. It kind of grows quite right. It's a growing experience for me when I have that.
Right, right. So did you say, Helen, I'm trying to think back, did you say that you did it intentionally, or it just kind of
Oh no,
happened by accident?
it happened by accident.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you weren't even intending to leave your body, you just left your body.
yeah,
Okay. And there was nothing wrong. You were like, "Oh, okay, here we are,"
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like the first, as I said, it wasn't the first like in different experience that I had. So at that time I was exploring, and also because I think in high school I started exploring with these things within myself. And also, like, obviously the books that you're reading, your mind goes like, it's so imaginative.
Right,
So if you're intuitive and open to those experiences, then it can happen so easily.
right. Wow. Wow. So in that moment, what did it teach you about our existence? To be floating so far above, looking down, to have that view, to have that vantage point and that perspective over yourself and the collective. What did it teach you? What did it tell you about who we are, like what we are, you know?
Now, in a way, it was kind of like it was a real disillusionment.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah. So, and that was, you know, helping me with this thing about happiness and fulfillment. I realized then as well that none of this is going to make me happy. Like,
Mm.
the thought, that the main thought was, this does not make sense. Like, so when I came back to, my life, like, the next day or whatever, is I felt a bit disconnected, And same when I found the answer to happiness, like, you know, after a 10-year search, it was a similar feeling. It's almost like you're sad in a way. It's strange. It's like a contradiction, but that disillusionment can make you feel a bit deflated,
Right.
or a lot, you know, when your eyes open up, like people think, you know, when your eyes open up, it's not always a pretty picture.
Right.
There's a lot to deal with when your eyes open up. So it was kind of like that. Like I learned, well, I learned you need to kind of come into yourself to figure things out. If you really want to live a fulfilled life, you got to go deep within, and you're not going to find it in any of this stuff down there. You know, all the noise, all the busyness, all the things that you know, that image that we see from when we are a child of what life is supposed to be, unless you're a very lucky child. But I think everybody, you know, we're growing up with this image of what we should be like, or what life should be like, and then it becomes like a picture, and then, you know, you're struggling within yourself to get out of this, you know, to kind of, I don't know, understand the reflection, or play with the reflection in a good way. So yeah, I think that's what
That makes sense. That makes sense. You know, playing with the reflection, and just to have that connection with your own reflection, like you said, just going within. You put something, you know, on one of your posts when you were talking about, like, you know, the famous Greek philosophers like Socrates and Plato and Aristotle, and it seemed like they all kind of coincided with the know thyself, you know thyself, and just go inside. Don't keep focusing on the outside. You'll find everything, all the answers to the questions on the inside. So when you said, Helen, that, you know, after a 10-year search, you know, the pursuit of happiness, you know, seeking this thing called happiness, you said after a decade, you finally found the answer. What did you find?
Well, I'll tell you what my definition of happiness is. Okay, so my definition of happiness is knowing oneself, is going within and knowing oneself. And how I found it is, I actually was giving up after a 10-year search. I was traveling all over the world, and you know, I was having all these amazing experiences. I met a businessman in England, and he had the perceived, you know, good life. He had like these businesses, you know, he was wealthy, he was healthy, he had a beautiful girlfriend at the time, but he wasn't happy, he wasn't fulfilled. And then that made me like realize, you know, again, nothing on the outside. You can have the perfect perceived life, but if you haven't found that fulfillment, if you haven't found yourself, knowing yourself, then, you know, you haven't arrived at that destination, right?
Wow.
So what happened is I was just about to give up. I was like, no, this is, you know, this idea, I'm done with it. I can't figure this thing out, you know. And I went back to South Africa. And the year before that, I was in the United States, and I was staying in a youth hostel. And this woman, Sonia, she passed away now. She was so excited. She's going to go see this Indian man. And she couldn't stop talking about it. We shared a room, and she couldn't stop talking about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, okay, I got to listen to this woman. Like, she's got something to say. She's like, I'm going to go see this man. He talks about peace and everything. And she said, the next day I left, and she said, well, I left for 2 weeks, but I was going to come back to the same place. And she said she's going to like send me, like leave something for me there, or send something to the place for me. And I'm thinking, this woman doesn't even know me. What is she talking about? Fine. So I went away, And I came back and she had left me these CDs about this guy from India who speaks about peace. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I thought it's a nice message. I put it on my MP3. I was listening to it, you know, when I'm on the train, when I'm on the bus, whatever. And life went on. And then a year like after that, when I was in England and I went back to South Africa, it's like just, I think around a year later, I went to a market, and outdoor, like an organic market, or like, yeah. And there was this woman, and she had like this produce, and she had a little basket. This is now in South Africa, right? Mm. She had a little basket with these DVDs in there. And I walked past and I was like, I know that guy. And it was the same guy from India, right? Mm. And she's like, well, have one. It's free. Take it. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to take this DVD now. And I went home and I watched the DVD, and I actually saw that it was a process that you could follow. And it took me 9 months to go through this process. And through that, I found the answer. And the thing is, like, at the end of the process, you get 4 techniques. You're given 4 techniques, right? And I practice this every day, 1 hour before sunrise. And when I practiced that the first time, it was like I felt, I found what I was looking for. I felt something that I never felt before. Yeah. You know, it was like if I can describe what it was like, you know, like you were searching for something, like, and you finally found it. And right. It was myself. And I knew I was looking for myself. I was looking for myself. Like, if you could, it's like you're meeting yourself, right? Yeah. So after that, I feel blessed, you know, because it was such a relief. Mm-hmm. I'm just coming back to my definition of happiness now. Happiness is knowing who and what you are. I was saying before, when I said it, I had like a blank. Now, my definition of happiness is knowing who and what we are, and living from that knowing. Okay. It's our natural state. And that's what I found. I now know, since then, I know who and what I am. And I live from that place. Yes. Not always easy, you know, because it's not, I still have to, you know, like people, like even at that time, it was like the worst time for me, because if I say my eyes opened up, it was literally like this shells was coming off my eyes, like in a big way. Yes. Everything that was wrong in my life was like in my face all of a sudden, like traumatic things. Like, it was so difficult. So it's not like when it happens, you know, like it's just la 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 like this. You are happy. I'm always happy inside because of that knowing. Right. But I still, you know, it's still, again, it was kind of a disillusionment, because if you live in the Maya, you know, it can be fun as well, right? In the sense of like, you're very ignorant, you know, you can be very ignorant just living in the Maya. But yeah, you have to. It's nobody said it was going to be like a, you know, like a easy journey. Exactly. To go within, but it's worth it. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is tremendous. You know, thank you for sharing this. Thank you for sharing this, Helen. You know, just walking us down and telling us where this originated, where you finally found the answers, and that you were just looking for yourself the whole time. You know, it just reminds me of, you know, a book that I have over here is by Paulo Coelho. The book is called The Alchemist. You ever heard of The Alchemist? It's one of my first. I read it when I was in the States, when I was 18. Yeah. Oh, it's such a good book.
And you know, in that story, you know, he goes out seeking this treasure, you know, in this faraway place, and he traverses different obstacles and opposition and adversity, and he's jumping through all of these things happen, and he's trying to find this treasure, and then he comes all the way full circle right back to the beginning and realizes it was there the whole time, you
Mm.
know? It was there the whole time, right where he started.
Yeah.
So you know, Helen, you mentioned that it was a process on the DVD, you know, this 9 months of training to discover and uncover and recover what had seemed to be lost or what you were looking for that was yourself. What was the process called? Do you recall what it was called? Did it have a
Yeah,
name?
I mean, I don't take credit for this at all. It's the guy from India is Prem Rawat, so anybody can go look him up. And yeah, so the process is pretty much just him talking, but he's so. I actually met him. I was so lucky. I met him the year after. So the process at the end is you receive knowledge. That's what they call it. And I was lucky, like the year just off, or just actually not the year, like just after I received knowledge, he came to South Africa, and he and I actually got to meet him. I'll get to the process now. Actually, I just want to tell you this. I've never ever in my life came across any human being that has a vibration like that. Like you were unable, I was unable to look in his eyes. Like you can't even focus in his eyes. It was this. It was such an interesting experience, and I just like my whole body was like vibrating, like you could just feel that energy, like just oh, it was so wonderful. And then if you all the people could go and get some kind of a blessing from him,
Mhm.
right? And he just like touches you. I couldn't even see anything in that moment, you know,
You were
like it,
you were blinded? You were
yeah,
blindsided?
it was like a dream, you know. It was just like that energy was so strong that was coming like from him. And yeah, so for me, it's I always kind of remind myself of that and think, you know, there's so much further you can go into, um, you know, kind of being in that state of fulfillment and being in that state of true happiness within.
Yeah.
And the process is just, you know, he's just got a very simple message around peace. It's all about it's all about the it's all about peace, you know, like how and the simplicity of life.
Mm.
So he focuses a lot on just, you know, like the simplicity of life
Hmm.
and how to feel the joy and feel the peace within.
Hmm.
It sounds simple now, but when you like, you know, when you go through it, it's quite transformative. I
Right.
did it in 9 months because I really kind of, you know, kind of worked with the process. But you can do it in probably a month if you want.
Okay. Okay.
It doesn't
And
have to take 9 months, but I wanted to integrate, you know,
right,
integrate it into my life as
right.
I went along. So I did it slowly, you know, and made sure that I got everything, you know, like
Hmm.
I'm really with it. And when I watched it fully, you know. If I would miss something, I'd be like, okay, you got to start again, you know. Because it was
Yeah.
so important to me, you know, every single, and I didn't know this was going to work, but as I was searching in those 10 years, I did it actively, you know. And I think I put a post today about prioritizing, and I talk about this when I talk about finding true fulfillment and happiness, is if you're not going to prioritize it, then it's not going to happen.
Mm.
So if you think about anything in life, it's like that. If you're not, you can say, oh, I want to reach this goal, I want that, oh, I want to be happy, but are you actually prioritizing it?
Right.
Number one. And number two, are you actively, you know, kind of in that process to get what you're looking for?
Right.
Because it can't just be, oh, I want to be happy, but you know, but I don't even understand what it means, or I don't really want it, or I don't, you know, like there's no connection. You didn't make the
Hmm.
connection. And then if you try tools, and this can apply to anything in life, if you then, you know, try out these tools
Hmm.
or read a book or try a new method, but you're not in it, yet, you know, you're not fully like in that process, then it's not going to have that desired effect.
Right.
This is how I feel like. So you
No, I
know.
agree. I agree. Definitely. That's a great, you know, testimony, just a great message for people to understand that, you know, if we aim at nothing, we hit nothing. You know, it's like an archer, you know, in the range, you know, an archer, you pull the bow back and you release the arrow. You have to let it go. You have to let it go, but you're aiming at something. You're aiming at a target. You're aiming at something that you're shooting in that direction. But if you aim at nothing, you hit nothing.
Mm.
So it makes sense, the parallel, you know, in our lives. If nothing, you know, if we don't have it as our priority, if it's not, you know, a plan, it's just a wish. It's just kind of like a wish, a wisp in the clouds, you know, just a wisp of smoke. You're just thinking, oh, you know, it'd be lovely if one day or someday or, you know. But thank you for that message because it's a strong one. It's a strong one for just for myself as well to stay, you know, focused on what you actually want to actualize, you know, what want to bring into being, because whatever you're seeking, you will find it. You're gonna find it. Even if it just brings you back to yourself, you will find it, you know?
Mm.
So this is awesome. You know, Helen, when you're talking about, you know, that this process allowed you to discover, you said not only who you are, but what you are. And these are very kind of existential, very philosophical, you know, things. So who are you?
Well, I'm consciousness. I'm part of the larger consciousness system, I call it.
Mhm.
So yes, I'm a part of the larger consciousness system, and yeah, it's just a system. And I've explored a lot, you know, with that as well, and experiencing, you know, kind of not myself as much, you know, always just as human. Is understanding that I'm, you know, part of that, like a system, like a fractal,
Mm,
and um, and also when you know when you get in touch with that feeling, is that that completely takes you out of the mind, right,
mhm,
and into your beingness.
mm,
So yeah, I'm a part of the large consciousness system. It's a system, and
right.
that's how I understand it. And it helped me a lot in life to not, you know, like in difficult times,
Mm,
I just, when I have that kind of knowingness,
mhm,
because that's another thing that that gave me is the biggest relief was knowingness. Because during the process, you know, I started believing a lot of things from the books, from the this, you know, like, but it's different when you know it, and
mm,
and that's like kind of a, when the penny drops, you
right.
know, when you feel that feeling of relief, you know, then you know it's an, you know, and nobody can ever take that away from you. Once you know,
Right.
it's
Right.
yours.
Right. So it's like
So
you fully claim
yeah,
it, like knowing. There's a big difference between knowing and believing. I like that.
yeah,
I like that.
you gotta know,
Yeah.
you gotta know. And then the helpful thing, you know, for anybody listening is what I did as well, is I reverse engineered my life. And I thought, you know, I thought, okay, I'm gonna first, so I thought, okay, what do most people want at the end of their life, on their deathbed or anything? They just want to be happy, you know. They're thinking back, like I speak to a lot of older people. I love older people, the elderly people. I find them super interesting, and I always ask them loads of questions. But like everybody says, you know, they wish they could have done things differently, in the sense of they wish they didn't spend so much time working, or, you know, they didn't spend so much time like on silly little things, you
Mhm,
know, which
mhm,
is now things that's important to most people. But at the end of the day, all of them, you know, even if it's your last breath, you're thinking, well, you know, you missed the big goal.
mm,
You know, you were never fulfilled. You never found yourself. You never knew who and what you were. You never came back to, you know, kind of, yeah, you'd never
Yeah,
you knew who you were.
I feel you. You know, what you're saying is really, it just really plucks at the heart, you know, because, you know, as you were speaking that, Helen, just speaking to these people, you know, the elderly that are, you know, in the grand play of life, they're kind of being ushered off stage, you know, and if they see the end in sight or they feel like, you know, there's more to be done, I could have done this, I could have done that, to have regrets, to have things in your mind and in your heart and in your spirit that you felt were unresolved or unfulfilled, and to witness that, you know, I just read a book by Oscar Wilde. Have you ever read this book, Helen? It's called The Picture of Dorian Gray. Have you ever read this book?
No, no, is it good?
It was amazing. I mean, a phenomenal book in different ways. It was very dark. It had a lot of darkness,
Yeah.
but it was just he painted such a picture in these different characters, and it's called The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. And he actually went to prison for writing the book. They put him on trial for indecency because back
Okay.
when he wrote the book, it was so controversial that they put him on trial just for writing the book. It was that big. But it's regarded as his greatest work of all time, and I just finished it. And one of the quotes in the book, Helen, it just made me pause. I had to meditate on this quote. It said, and it was from Lord Henry in the book. He said, the tragedy of old age is not that one is old, but that one is young. Like, I'll say it again.
Yeah.
So he said, the tragedy, like the sad thing about old age, he said, is not that one is old, but that one is young.
And how did you perceive that?
So what you just said, when
Yeah,
you
yeah,
had
yeah.
these, you know, these talks with these people, and it's like,
Mm.
oh, you know, all these things, like they're still young. They're still young inside. You
Yeah.
know, it's like the their soul, their spirit, it's still
Yes.
young. You know,
Yeah.
even if they look at themselves in the mirror, they see the reflection and they maybe see the wrinkles and the knots and, you know, everything, you know, marring the body, or any flaws that they see when they look at themselves in the mirror. It's not who they actually
Yeah.
are. You know, who they see on the outside is not who they are on the inside.
Yeah.
So it was saying it's not, you know, not that one is old, but one is young.
Yeah.
Like you're still young. There's still, you know, so that really hit me hard. And yeah, just understanding, wow, there's so much life to live, you know, while we're here. Yeah.
And now Elitom goes for the immortality. I'm like all in for it, you know. But it's funny because I've heard, you know, I've been making this joke. My friends think I'm crazy. I don't care. Because they asked me, I said, listen, I'm gonna get to 1024.
Mhm.
No, what did I say? Yeah, 1024, because I know of a person who reached the age of 1025. So I don't want to take all the spotlight for the, you know, like also going that far. I'll just
Yeah.
take 1024.
Beautiful.
But yeah, now Tom's opened another door, and I'm like, woo, this sounds interesting.
Yeah. You know, also just on a side note, Helen, you mentioned, you know, you weren't afraid when you went out of your body, and a lot of the fear, you know, got removed when you found more freedom and fulfillment, you know, it kind of let go of all that fear. But you did say that there was a moment where you did freak out when you said the aliens almost took you. Can you just speak on that for a second? Like these galactic beings, like what were these galactic beings that almost took you?
Yes, so yeah, it's, around say 2017, no, probably before 16, 17, around there, I started having a lot of, you know, kind of synchronistic experiences again.
Hmm.
You know, it's kind of like getting in touch with like Rolf Smart stuff, and then, you know, starting seeing all the numbers, and, you know, like everything started. And then I went a bit on the, you know, like going into vegetarianism and veganism, and, you know, kind of like going in that route,
Hmm.
but getting a lot of downloads. And I was searching for community as well. And then I came across this online community, and this woman was talking about And I just kind of joined when this whole group started, and she was kind of like talking about all these things, and so I was coming, you know, at that time I was very in touch with like a lot of like spiritual stuff, if I can call it that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was dealing with some like challenge, a personal challenge at the time, and I was riding my bike. I was in Italy, so riding my bicycle the night, and I was almost at my Airbnb. And I was right in front of the door. Because it was very stormy, the wind was blowing, and I just got home in the afternoon, and I was in front of and it was just going to be starting to rain as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in front of the door to go in, and something said to me, something like pulled me, you know, and said, no, go to the beach.
Mm.
So I cycled to the beach, you know, just following my intuition, crossed the road, cycled onto the beach, and it was just a beautiful scenery, you know. I didn't see anything. There was clouds, and you know, the sun was there and everything. And I just looked, standing there. I remember the sensation. It felt like I was in some, you know, you felt like I was in a different reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember it because it was so stormy, my hair was blowing and everything. Anyway, I went home, done with it. And then I think around maybe like a week or a couple of days later, I was on a train going somewhere in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was flipping through my photos, right? Because I took photos of this thing. I was flipping through my photos, and I was like, what's that? I was like, zooming in. I was like, what's that? You know, and it was like a ship.
What?
You know, but it's funny. It was even like a face. You know, it was the weirdest thing.
What?
And yes, it was like a ship, a face ship. I don't know. It was like it was just a different image, but it was a ship. I knew it was a ship.
Where?
And then I was like, oh my goodness, either I'm losing the plot here, or like I've just seen like a ship
Where?
now. And yes, so I went home that night, or I went home, and I thought, okay, fine. As I am, I gotta find solutions for my, you know, if I have a question, we gotta find an answer here. So I went to bed, you know, I went into meditative state, and I asked, I said, if this is what I saw, they prove it. Anyway, so I went to sleep, and then, you know, they came and they took me, and I could feel, you know, I felt myself moving, you know, up, and I was so scared. I was scared in the moment, and poof, I dropped down again, and they didn't take me again.
What?
They didn't take me again. But I mean, I probably, if I wasn't scared, you know, I probably could have experienced something really cool there. But I was a little bit scared. I mean, now if I'm open, you know, of course, I've seen more ships since then, and you know, made some contact, but I was never taken to the ship again.
I'm glad you're still here. You
Yeah.
know, I'm glad you're still with us. You know, but so where was the ship? Where was the ship that you saw in your pictures in your camera roll?
It was right there where, you know, when I went to the beach,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I took the picture. It was right in the cloud there.
So
But
you
I
just took a
couldn't.
picture. You didn't
No,
see it when you took the picture.
I
It was
didn't
only
see it.
it was when you saw the picture later on that you witnessed what was there.
Yes.
Okay.
When I was like zooming in, you know, I saw, what's
Yeah.
that? And then I zoomed in, I was like, oh my goodness, what is that?
And then at night, late at night, you said you almost like a prayer, almost like a call out.
Yeah.
You were like, okay, if this is real, then show me, just show
Yeah.
me. And they were about to show you.
Yeah. But I mean, when you experience, it's the same with your first out of body experience, like, oh, you know, like that type of stuff. It's like, it's a little bit, as soon as you wiggle, you know, as soon as you show, my battery's getting low here. Yeah, as soon as they won't do anything to put you out, you know, like in an uncomfortable position.
Okay.
So as soon as you, yeah, if they see you're not ready, completely ready, they won't force you, you know. So it was a good experience. I mean, I would have loved to go and see the ship or
Yeah.
whatever they wanted to do. I would have loved to experience it. I'm very, very pro
Hmm.
experience open contact. I'm very pro open
Because
contact.
what do you feel like, Helen? Because you earlier, when you mentioned who you are, when you discovered who you are and what you are, you described yourself as consciousness, like a part, like a fractal, like a shard of consciousness.
Hmm.
So when you know that that's what you are, that who you are, who are they? Are they the same?
They're also a part. They're
So
also
they're the
like
same.
a part
They're the
of
same as
consciousness.
us.
Uh, well, in essence, if you look at it in a yeah, they're also a part of consciousness. They're just a more evolved part of consciousness. Like we're human beings are not that evolved, you know. They're much more evolved than us.
Mm,
So like we can learn so much from them. And how I know this, that when they come, when open contact is happening, is that we will get so much information that's going to help us. So that's why it's such a positive thing. But yes, they're also part of consciousness. And they're just a higher, at a higher vibration than
right.
us. Yeah.
Because what do you feel like I love that you say we can learn so much from them. What do you feel like they're learning from us? What is, you know, I guess the dynamic between us and them, like between each other? What is the dynamic? What is, the secrecy or the espionage or, the clandestine like mission? Like you asked and the answer was given. They were about to suck you up. They were about to take you to see the ship. You wanted to see it. You said, "Let me get a ride." They said, "All right, come inside." Right?
Take me, take me,
Right? You
take
said, "Beat me up. Beat me up." Right?
me.
So, what do you feel like is the purpose? What is their purpose? What is the service that the galactic beings are doing here? Yeah.
Now, or you mean like when they come? I mean when
Well,
they
in
come,
general,
like
because they're
right?
already here, right? They're
Yes,
they're
yeah,
here
yeah.
now. They're
What's this?
already
I
here.
mean, they're learning from us as well, because being a human being is not the easy experience.
And you
Being
said
a
they're
human being is not.
higher. You said they're much more evolved,
Yes,
right?
that's how I see it vibrationally, because they don't have the same challenges as we have.
Ah.
This is how I see it. They kind of like the struggles that we have, like the earth struggles, the struggles that we have with the fact that we have forgotten who we are.
Hmm.
So it kind of ties in with this whole fulfillment thing, right? So the biggest struggle of the human being is that they have forgotten, or they don't know who and what they are.
Hmm.
So it's it's kind of, yes, you can find out on the earthly plane, but then you still have to do all the things. You got to figure out how to make money, or how to live in the society that has been created.
Hmm.
We have to like deal with so many of these challenges. And yeah, and think I think in for them it's easier, because they don't have that kind of illusion that we have to deal with,
So they're,
you know.
they're disillusioned. Same as when you became disillusioned.
Yeah.
They're disillusioned, but at a
Yeah.
higher level, at a different
Yeah.
spectrum. They
Yeah.
have
So I
another.
think when they look at us, they probably envy us as well, because we are having a lot of fun with all these challenges, right? It's a lot of challenges.
You know what's interesting? You know what's so interesting, Helen? And I had one more question for you, but you said they envy us. You know,
Probably.
I heard this and I don't know how true this is, but it just sounds so interesting to think about it. They said that, the gods, like the Greek gods in mythology, like Zeus and Athena and Helen and like, Hades and like all these Greek gods in mythology. They said the gods envied the mortals. Like
Yeah.
the gods, they envied the mortals because there was so much chance. Like
Mm.
the roll of the you know, like there was so much chance, there was so much chaos, there was so much fluctuation in the vibration, like so many things could happen, whereas the gods knew that they were immortal and they would never die, and everything for them was guaranteed. You know, life is
Exactly. Yeah.
guaranteed, you know, everything is guaranteed, you know, they would never perish. So they said they envied the mortals for their mortality,
Yeah.
because you know there was a beginning and an ending, and that so much can happen between that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So you feel like that for the galactic beings as well, you feel like it's the
I
same.
think probably, yeah, yeah. I think it's a similar thing, exactly, because there's not so much unpredictability
Mm,
in that realm, you know? There's a lot of unpredictability in our world. Like everything's unpredictable, and you know, it's just like all about the probabilities.
right.
So I think it's probably more, you know, like it's more yeah, I think it's not so
Yeah,
chaotic, you know, less
it makes
it's
sense.
not such high entropy in that
it
realms as here.
it
So we're
makes
always
sense.
looking to lower the entropy.
Yeah, it makes sense because you know just that word unpredictability, unpredictable,
Mm.
you know, it's unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow,
Yeah.
and that can either scare you, or you can get excited, like I don't know what's gonna happen.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you can either be like, I don't know what's gonna happen, or you can be like, oh my God, what's gonna happen, right?
That's
You
true.
know, there's
Yeah.
so many ways of looking at it, but if one could look into a crystal ball, like for yourself, if you could look into a crystal ball and it showed you everything that was gonna happen, like here you're gonna be like this is gonna happen and this is gonna happen and then you're gonna go through this and you're gonna go through, like it wouldn't, you know, there would be
Fun.
no surprises, there would be
Mm.
no,
Exactly.
yeah,
Think how boring it would be.
right,
Yeah. I was
right.
thinking a thought before we, you know, before the live today when I was writing the poem. Okay, I call it the in-between place, you know, where you go after you die.
Mm,
I've been there in one of my extrasensory experiences. So, you know, when you signed on to another life, whatever. And I think like when we do the life review,
mm,
right?
mm.
Don't you think that you would just laugh so much looking at your life? Because obviously there's no judgment in that moment, right? You're just like seeing, you know, where you could have done maybe something differently,
Mm,
which I'm sure there would be loads of those moments. But I think it must be quite a humorous experience. You would
mm.
just look at yourself and be like, oh my goodness, what did you do there? Now you got to go into another life and fix that again, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah.
Just watching your life play out like a
Oh
movie, you know,
gosh.
just
Yeah.
watching things, you know, just looking at the screen. And you
Oh,
know,
it's so funny.
I had one more question for you, but before I ask this, Helen, someone asked, you know, I wonder, you know, one of the wonderful listeners and watchers here, they asked you a question earlier,
Oh,
and I pinned it down here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's from Coda
yeah.
Rose, and they asked, any advice on accessing creativity through blockages due to trauma? Like, do you have any advice on accessing creativity through blockages?
By removing the blockages or
They're just asking like
yeah.
accessing creativity through blockages due to trauma. So
Yeah.
they went through something traumatic
Mm-hmm.
and they feel that they have blockages from the trauma and they want to access creativity. Did you have any advice
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah, well, you got to remove the blockages in whichever way you can, right? So if you do it through energy work, any kind of energy work, like I do the DNA upgrade, so you can do any kind of energy work. Even the qigong that you do is part of removing the blockages, right? It's letting that energy flow, and as you do that, automatically, you know, there's kind of a void, like a space, not a void, like a space being created then for something better to come, some better information to come as you, it's a lifelong process to remove these
Mm.
blockages. But you know, you need to create some momentum with that.
Okay.
And that compound you know, like compound interest, you gotta like do it, like keep on doing it I'm still having to do it. I do DNA upgrades on myself now every day.
So it never
And
ends.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that advice. And
Yeah.
you know, the last thing I wanted to ask is, how did you get into pranic living? You know, I saw your video, your dry fast, your pranic initiation, and I'd love to know like how you found that vibration.
Yes, I was traveling a lot. I was traveling in Europe almost at the same time, you know, and just after that
Mm.
experience of the ship. And I was in Spain. And obviously all these countries I go to, you know, like there's different food. And I was like, oh, I feel like some cake. And just as I got to this town called Tarifa, which is in the southernmost point of Europe.
Mm.
And I went to buy 3 pieces of cake, 3 different ones. And I ate all 3.
Mm.
And I felt like disgusted with myself, you know, and I was just like, oh. And I don't know what I was doing, you know, I wasn't specifically looking for pranic living, breatharianism, anything like that. I was just on my computer or something, and this video just popped up. You know how it works. It's like the universe. It just, you know, when the time is right, something. And I still can't tell you that I was like, how I found the video. But I saw this video about breatharianism, and I clicked on it, and I was like, and it was by Ray Maor.
Yes.
And I watched it, and it was just like the same thing like with the happiness thing, you know. It was just like, poof, I'm going to do this.
Wow.
I'm doing this.
Wow.
I don't care. I'm doing this thing now. And so I checked up and I was like, okay, you need to go to a retreat. I'm like, there's no retreat here. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm doing this thing by myself.
Wow.
So I did like a little bit of research, not too much, because my mind's like a sponge. And if I put, you know, if I read something negative, like it's going to go in there and it's going to affect my process. So I started reading the book that I think his book, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they started talking about the negative things, some chapter in there. I was like, okay, now put this down. I think maybe we could just go by live in our magic world, you know, take the basics. So I made my own process. So it's like the 10-day process that he does, but I started it with a liver flush, which I'm now on a dry fast, right? I'm probably on around 91 hours now.
Wow.
Just dry. But I started it the same way as I did that process. I started with a liver flush last week, and then, you know, slowly with the fruits and the juice and then the water, and then into the dry. And honestly, I haven't done it like this in a long time, but it makes so much difference. Like I feel good, you know, I can do the dry longer as opposed to just jumping into a dry day. Anyway, so yeah, so then that's how I started. So I did that process, started with the liver flush, and then did the whole process. And yeah, I can't say, you know, I'm the I've been on the path all the time. I did liquids for 2 months after that, which was also amazing. And I'm going to see now if I can get back to only liquids. But yeah, as you know, sometimes you get busy and you don't keep doing the things, but you can always get back to it.
And you said you did the whole process. So what did you feel like during that process? Like, were there, you know, a certain amount of days that you went without anything, without food and water, and then, you know, maybe certain changes in your body, like certain things were changed or rearranged? Like, what happened?
Yeah, I went through the whole process. Obviously, like the first day I documented everything. It's on YouTube, but for me, it was a very intense process. Like I had all kinds of strange things happening, but I was, you know, I was like relying on my energy tools, or my, let's call it communication tool. That's another way I see myself and the consciousness. I see it as a communication model. It's data. Everything is like a computer almost, you know. It's all data. You got to learn the communication. You can communicate with so many things, and or receive communication in so many ways. So I just taught myself different tools as well. So obviously at some point I started getting really thirsty. So I did my dry fasting part was 4.5 days the first time. And in the 10-day process, it's 3.5 days, but I did 4.5. And at some point, I started getting a bit, I couldn't breathe, like, and I'm alone, right? I was totally alone there. It's like, oh my God, I can't breathe very well. But then I like taught myself to get, even today, I was a little short breath. I had to take a walk, and then I just take, like, there was a wind blowing, and and as I like breathe it in, I can feel it soothes me, So things like that, like I taught myself. And also with the deep water, I developed a meditation. And when I felt like really thirsty, I like drank my deep water, through my own meditation thing. And I did a lot of a breathing technique, which is also like from the Arcturians. So I would practice this breathing technique. It's just circulating the light, which quite helped a lot. And then obviously, the fulfillment process that I always talk about. I did lots of things like yoga. I went swimming in the ocean. Like I wasn't like walking and things. So I was out. I felt I had to be out in nature a lot.
Yeah.
That was lovely for me. That feeling when you're like, ooh, this is a plant. I love it.
Right.
But then also a lot of releasing emotional stuff, crying a lot, like dealing with a lot of stuff. And I would go into my meditations and really, really be with myself and deal with those things that came up. Like I would talk to source during that, right? During the process, I would be in constant communication with my spirit team and with source, and to get as many downloads as I possibly could, because what is the point? You do this, it's not easy, but you do it. So you need to extract from that process as much as you can, like in the sense of that's when you are so clear and aware that you can actually hear what source is trying to tell you and feel, the feelings or the sensations. I also had a what do you call it? Like all my chakras aligned, like what do you call it? Like a Kundalini awakening.
Yes.
Yes. So I felt like I was pulled up into this tree. I saw this like tree, the tree of life.
Uh-oh. Hello? Okay.
Let me just get, I think my battery is low. Just give me a sec.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Let me just plug it in here.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So
You said it was pulling you up into the tree of life. That was the last thing we heard.
yes,
Yeah.
pulling me up into the tree of life. And then as it was pulling me up, I just felt like this feeling. And I just felt like all my chakras just kind of like washed from the top to the bottom down, like opened like this. This was on, I think this was on my 3rd day of dry at that time. Of course, your first experience is the most amazing. I've done extended dry since then, but my first experience was like in a magic world, So
Wow.
and yours, are you doing extended dry?
So I've done them before. Right now I'm just liquid, so I've just been with, living a liquid lifestyle for quite some time now. But when it comes to, freedom days, your pranic days, or your dry days, because now you said you're currently in like number 4, right? This is dry day.
Just short. I will be going into day 5 around like in I mean it's now about 90. Yeah, in 4 hours I'll be going
Into day 5.
Day 5, yeah.
Yeah. So, for the average person walking down the street, one day is a stretch, even half a day. There's a lot of people that won't even go 12 hours without eating and drinking. So you've already gone 4 days. You're about to go into 5 days. Like, how has it changed your perception when it comes to consumption? Because before you said, Helen, you were ordering 3 cakes and you were eating all 3, right? So you were very into consumption back then, but how has it changed the way that you view food today?
Well, I've now started consuming, some of Elitom's content. So now my mind's now, I'm so thankful to have found Elitom, because now I'm on a, I'm like, okay, now we're going to another level here. So now again, like I went through the process and, kind of went off the wagon as well. Again, how I see food now, based on what I've heard Elitom say, is, and this is terrible because I've stopped playing with it, but Elitom talks about corruption, right? So now slowly my mind has changed to this corruption thinking. So I'm becoming more disinterested. Yes, this is his word. I'm becoming more disinterested in food. And probably tying on to what he says about corruption, if I start really seeing food as data as well, then it could be very helpful too, you know. But yeah, I mean, I started becoming disinterested in it. But the I would say the challenge for me is still, I love the socializing aspect of eating. I do. I love it. I love to go out to dinner. I love sitting around the table, especially being South African. Like, we're a culture of socializing, It's not so much about the food, but the food is a big part, but we are a culture of socializing around food.
Right.
And then also I love cooking. So, and I absolutely love watching food programs. So it's the
Right.
worst, especially when I'm fasting. I did it from the very first time I was fasting. And I don't know, it seems like I'm probably eating while I'm doing it or something.
So,
But yeah, so it's I would say it's a developing thing for me. There's one part of me which is so interested in food, kind of like preparing it, experimenting with it, going to a good restaurant and trying different things, or going to different countries and experiencing the food of the country, or that. And then there's that other part of me, which is the part that has, kind of, that is a part that wants to evolve, to my best self, that's now on the path of Pranic. So I have to always kind of like
yeah.
check in with myself.
That definitely, that was my question. So, I was wondering, like, what's the payoff for you? Like, what's rewarding about the experience, since you enjoy so many things about food, but part of you has the disgust, and then part of you feels the connection, and then part of you has that introspection, and then part of you has the rejection, and then, when you have these different dynamics, what do you feel is rewarding about the pranic experience, the pranic state, or just being on these dry days with nothing at all? What makes it worthwhile
Oh,
for you?
I mean, everything. Like, it's similar, it's similar to that experience of becoming fulfilled, of finding that answer. It's you wake up. So when I go deep into and dry, I'm waking up again.
Mm.
I'm like, wow, what was that thing I was living there? I look at it and I mean, it's not non-judgmental look, but it's almost like a humorous look, and I was like, whew, gosh, that was close. I always like thought I was, that was the real life, but this is not. So when I'm in like this dry fasting mode, and I'm so, and my nervous system is so, kind of relaxed, and I'm just so clear and fearless, more fearless, um, and you see what is important for me. In the breatharian process, there was kind of a very sad moment for me, as I lost a bit of motivation in my work at that time, not because nothing to do with the fact that I'm not doing good work or anything. But I just felt that I wanted to have connection with people. So when I dry fast, I always come back to that thing about being connected to nature or being connected to people, but real connection, not necessarily. And it always also bring me to, I mean, you could take this example, for example, talking to you today, I had the opportunity to talk to you all month or last month, but I didn't. But dry fasting, I'm just like, okay, this is what I need to do. I want to talk to giraffes. We need to have this discussion, you know? So it's at that clarity where you can actually prioritize the things, including yourself, including giving yourself that time to stop and just, you know, kind of clean the vessel, clean the mind. And then it's, I was thinking today because I was really thirsty in the sense, you know, I was like, I had an acupuncture session today for the first time ever. How wonderful was that?
Right.
To get that. Yeah, I mean, I didn't plan it with the dry fast or anything. I had it booked like a long time before. And but afterwards I was quite, they offered me some water there. I was like, no, thank you. But I was a bit thirsty. I was like, do you want some water or tea? I'm like, no, thank you. Even though I'm like, it's lovely to have water right now. And I came back and I was actually cleaning out the fridge because I have nothing in my fridge. Wanting to go fully into liquids now again after. And I was like, oh, there's orange juice, and I'm obsessed with orange juice. I love orange juice. And I just opened the orange juice and I was like smelling it. I was like, oh my gosh, Helen, you can stay a little bit longer. So yeah, because the thing is, always after I break a fast, I'm thinking, oh, why did I break the fast? Like it's okay, but it takes takes kind of a lot of energy just to start. But once you start, it's so easy. I feel you're a bit slow. I mean, you know, you're a bit slow, right? Do you do so when do you do long fasts?
Yeah. So sporadically, you know, whenever I feel, we listen to the body, like you said, you know, it lets you know, like it said, Helen, you can go a little bit longer. We can keep going here. Let's dial it a little bit back. Okay, let's take some steps forward. So I just listen to myself and my intuition when it comes to this. And this has been awesome. You know, just talking with you, just really just harmonizing with your energy and just coming to these understandings, these realizations. We need this, you know, we need different people with different perspectives within the collective to let people know they have options, because like I always say, people don't know they have options. They don't even know, like, you know, between the cake and, you know, like this and that, and like, oh, wait, I don't need it. I don't have to, you know, I can choose, you know?
Yeah.
So it's always like we think there's something to lose, but we don't realize that we can actually choose, you know?
I thought you were going to rhyme with the collective. I was like going to say, what did you say about the collective? To get the well, hang on, to get the directive.
Yeah, you got the directive. You got it. So thank you, Helen. Thank you for coming on here and speaking a word to us today. Just let people know, you know, I know you're a coach. I know you give coaching. I know you help people who are looking for it and are looking to find the answers. If somebody wants to get in touch with you or in tune with you, like, where's the best place that they should go to receive your offerings, your services?
I have a website. It's youmeandhappiness.com, but also it's probably better to reach out over social media. Okay. My handle is you, me, and happiness. So everything is you, me, and happiness. Facebook, everywhere. And yeah, they can just reach out to me, and I'll be happy to help where I can.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you,
and
Helen.
I have something for everybody. So
you absolutely do, and you had something for me today. Like, thank you. I receive it. I receive it.
Thank you, Dorian.
Thank you, Helen. Enjoy the rest of your day in Portugal.
Thank you. Same to you.
All right.
Texas.
Take care. Bye. Bye-bye.